All right, so this lesson is going to be about how to take notes on your research country report. And I had to be a little creative because some of the things that we would have been able to do in the classroom, I don't think you're going to have access to at home, although I am working with Mrs. Headland. So maybe next week, one of our lessons, I'll be able to update you a little bit. And also shout out to Jane. I didn't ask you permission, but I already went ahead and used your login. So thanks so much, Jane. Appreciate it. Knew you wouldn't mind. So what I have on the screen that you guys are looking at right now is an easy way for me to show you what I've done, would have done in the classroom. However, this Word document to the right is pretending to be 4 different note cards. So you took home in your purple folders a whole bunch of note cards, but we hadn't really had a chance to use them just yet. So I want to remind you of the materials that you have that I might be referring to today, and I apologize that they're not up on the screen, but I know you know what they are. We had that really bright pink piece of paper, which was a reference page, and it asked you to circle whatever website you were using, and then there was a number next to it that helped you understand which reference you were talking about. That will make sense when I move on to making a note card for you in just a second. But first I want to show you which site I think you can use today through Hello ID, but I also want to give you some permission. As long as it's okay with your parents, if you would like to use Google to do some of your research for your country report, that is fine with me. Just make sure that you are going to credible sites. We're going to skip on Wikipedia. Although it's awesome, it's not going to help us write this country report. So instead, you're going to have to find some sites that are able to be read by you, because some of these are written at a college level. So you want to make sure that you can find an article. But for now, if I were you, I would just do the work on the site that I take you to today. And then next week, our lesson will also be on taking notes. So don't feel like you have to crazy be ahead. So another thing that I need you to access right now and to remind yourself of is what your questions are that you are wanting to research. For example, one of mine was maybe about Aboriginal people of Australia, but definitely the one we're going to look about today are the animals of Australia. So I want to know what are the unique animals to Australia. So using Jane's login, I'm going to go ahead and sign into Hello ID, hopefully. And once I'm on Hello ID, this is the thing I wanted to explain to you. I really want you to be able to use this ProQuest, but I don't quite know your login yet, so I am working with Mrs. Headland. You can try it out, but I couldn't get any of your guys' logins to work. But for now, I want you to actually go over here to Britannica School, so you'll click on that. And, oh, whoops, well, it already has Jane logged in. But what you are going to do, what it's going to ask you at first is how to log into that site. And it is your regular school, like, email login. So, for instance, Jane's was jane.adams@studentssd.org. jane.adams@studentssd.org. Okay? And then your password is just your 6-digit regular student number. Okay? But for you, what I'd like you guys to do, go ahead and click on elementary, because it's a good place to start. I can show you where to go from there. And up here under search, this is where you would write in your country. So I'm going to do Australia. So I'm going to hit enter after I've typed in Australia. And I'm actually going to make this page a little bit bigger for a moment. And this is going to give me a whole bunch of information. And I've got Australia, the island, the continent, and the nation. I've got Australia Day, which doesn't seem like it's going to help me very much. And then I've got a few more, like this says rock art, and so on and so forth. Okay, whatever rock art is. Oh, and then these are other ones. So what I want to focus on to show you today is these levels. Level 1 is elementary. Level 2 is middle school. And level 3 is high school. So stick with levels 1 and 2. It doesn't mean that you can't use level 3. It's just they have the same information. It's just a little bit more and a little harder to read. So stick to levels 1 and 2. And also, your search bar, you might want to try to be a little bit more specific. So rather than Australia, I really want to know the animals of Australia. So if I were to click on this, I got to be careful on what I click on. This one is an animal migration. It is not specific to Australia. This one right here is just talking about pets, and this one is just talking about animals at a glance. So it looks to me like the first place that I'm going to try to start here is this Australia, island, continent, and nation. So I've clicked on that. It's thinking about opening it up for me. There we go. Now I am currently on an elementary level, and this doesn't look like very much information, but it's still going to be a good place to start, just to show you also what it looks like when you click on middle school. It kind of gives you more specific information, but obviously more to read. So either one is totally fine. I'm going to go back to the elementary one for just a minute, which is reading level 1. Oh, it popped me out of what I was on before. That's okay. And I am going to actually go back. Perfect. Okay, so this is the elementary level when I first typed in Australia, and I want to click on this plants and animals. So when I click on here, it's going to start to give me all this information. I can even have it read it to me if I want it to. And if I click this down arrow, it's just going to give me the little bit of extra information. So this doesn't seem super, super detailed, which is kind of what I want. I want at least to have some information that I think is going to be helpful for my research. I can also click on this related, and I can see that that's not going to help me at all. So I can go back to this article, and I can click on this reading level for middle school, and I'm going to try to find something that's about animals. What I want to show you on this page, sorry I had to pause and re-record, is that there's a ton of information, and I want to use this part right over here to the left to kind of help me narrow my search. So like I told you earlier, I am really just looking for animals to start. So I'm going to click on this part, and it's going to take me all the way down to the section of this article that talks just about plants and animals of Australia. So I don't want to know about plants, so I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to start to read about animal life. So my job would be, and I'm now going to shrink this page over here so I can look at the left and the right. My job, where did animals there? Where did animals go? There we go. My job is to read through this and think about a note that I could take about this topic. Now, on your hot pink piece of paper, your job would be to go to a new source line and circle Britannica School. And let's just say, for example, that that's number 2. So my job here in my note card, I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger. This is something that you would handwrite, but again, I'm just using Word because we're being flexible from home during this remote learning. And I'm going to put a big 2 at the top, so I know that this came from source number 2. Now my other job is to make sure that I am making my life easier, not harder, by trying to rewrite these words in my own, or rewrite my note in my own words. So let's just come down here. I'm going to scroll down because I'm going to try to save you some time. And let's say that I just simply want to talk about the platypus, because I know that the platypus is an animal that is native to Australia. So my job is to read this paragraph about the platypus, and then I am going to try and write down a note that's in my own words about this animal. So it says, the platypus uses its webbed feet and its broad, sensitive bill to nuzzle food from river bottoms. It can be found in Tasmania and the eastern and southern parts of the mainland. The males have a poisonous spur on each hind leg. Although the poison is not fatal to humans, it can cause agonizing pain. Okay? Also, the part that I skipped over, and I apologize, they also told you what this whole section was. These are on monotremes. They're a mammal that lays eggs, which is also very important to know about a platypus. So I'm going to try to summarize this information all onto this one note card. So I'm going to start first by saying a platypus is found in Australia and Tasmania. It is a small mammal that lays eggs, and I'm going to add that name because that's kind of interesting, called a monotreme. The platypus has webbed feet And I think I'm also going to talk about that poisonous spur because I think that's pretty cool. So the platypus has webbed feet and a, oops, and a poisonous spur on each hind leg, but it isn't poisonous to people. Okay? It does cause a lot of pain, though. So again, this is just me sort of summarizing my information about the platypus. And I have some options. I could have taken this information and put it on 4 different note cards and said, a platypus is found in Australia and Tasmania. It's a small mammal that can lay eggs called a monotreme. It's got webbed feet and a poisonous spur. I could have separated those all out, but it's okay for me to put all of that information on one note card. Reminder, what you are doing is simply giving yourself all the information about the things that you're interested about your country. One thing that I was interested about was animals, so I would have the platypus maybe on one. I could also learn about another monotreme called an echidna. That could be my second note card here. I could also write about marsupials, which are things like koalas and kangaroos, so those could be more. There's so much information. I think that if I were to study the animals of Australia, I'm probably going to be able to come up with 15 to 20 note cards just because there's so much information. So your job this week is just to simply sort of start to dive in. I want you to start researching your country. You've got to go back to your journal and look to see what your original questions were that you're trying to study. And I want you to just start taking notes, okay? Start with Britannica for this week if you don't mind. It's okay to go to Google, but next week I will probably give you a video on how to do some different research, but I want you to just to be able to start this week. Go to Britannica, get out your note cards, make sure you've got on every page whatever number, oh, that's way small, whatever number it is of the reference that you circled on that pink sheet so you can stay nice and organized. And again, the most important thing, if you can put this into your words now, you're going to make your life next, when you go to write the final copy of this, it's going to make life a whole lot easier, okay? So this week I want you to just start taking some notes. Get as many note cards as you can done, no big deal. If you want to log into our Zoom call, I will show this to you again, but it'll be kind of the same information, but instead maybe you could come tell me something that you've learned, or you can come ask advice on something that you're trying to take notes on. Okay? Let me know if you guys have any questions. Hopefully that helped you figure out a little bit about how to get started this week on your country report by researching one small part of your questions that you have asked. Thank you.